Hey Mim,
Hiya.
and welcome back to Style Over Substance to those of you tuning in to this podcast.
Welcome. We are back for another episode. We took a break last week for a number of reasons. We're not going to get into it, it's boring. But we're back for like a topic this week. And then we're going to continue on with a guest next week. So thanks for sticking with us, guys. But yeah, how are you, Scarlett?
I'm all right, Mim. I'm all right. I'm feeling a little warm, and judging by the temperatures we had in this country last week, I'm really enjoying feeling warm. But I'll touch on that more for my fashion story.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, no, I'm not too bad. I'm not too bad. Yeah, just probably 80% wine at this stage. But
I have a vodka cranberry with me. I've drank half of it, but I'll pace myself. I don't want to get slurry.
You know what? I really
drowsy.
like cranberry juice as a mixer.
Yeah. Cranberry juice is underappreciated.
It definitely is. But how are you, Mim?
I'm okay. As I was saying to you, like, we're trying to figure out if there's a ghost in this flat because we're getting some weird vibrations going on.
Well, what is your fashion story this week, Mimula?
So my fashion story is, I don't want to say like a philosophical question, but it's like a high level thoughts question. Okay, yeah. So perusing the Business of Fashion website, they have an article entitled From West to East, Recentering the Fashion World. And basically recently, Uniqlo, you know, that Japanese brand that does all those basics and
Love Uniqlo,
things, yeah, and like their down puffers and whatnot, they are becoming one of the world's most valuable fashion businesses. And they're basically hot on Inditex's heels, which is, you know, own Zara and lots of other brands. And they're like the kings of fast fashion. So they're becoming more and more valuable as a fashion brand, and they're based out in Japan. And the premise of this article is the center of the fashion world moving more towards Asia as companies like those become more valuable. And then it was like, in the context of what's happening now, we see Asia and the Far East, not just Asia, but like Australia and those places opening up quicker than what is happening over in the West. Everyone's out shopping now. Everyone's kind of back to normal, more or less. And I was thinking, like, firstly, I think we could do an episode on this because I think there's a lot that we could probably learn and research on. But like, secondly, I could see that happening, like the new guard, you know, like streetwear, and there's a lot of money and a lot of big spenders. And you know, and I know, working for luxury brands, that a lot of their strategy is about targeting that Chinese, Japanese, especially Chinese, but you know, Japanese and other Asian nations market, because, you know, there's a lot of money to be had and they love to travel and love to spend money whilst they're abroad. And so I could definitely see, maybe in 10-15 years, Asia is the place to go shopping and to find some like really unique pieces that, say, LV are only releasing over there because they've got that market for. Yeah, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of Uniqlo, and I think I turned to Uniqlo for a lot of their technical fabrics. So like you mentioned the puffer, that's one of the most versatile pieces of like
I need to get one.
I own.
Yeah, I need to get one. I got Mr.
Incredible.
Big one for Christmas.
It fits under anything. It's really lightweight. It's not hot, but it also can be really warming. I used it when I was in Russia and it was such a valuable layer. I recently got some thermals from there because my flat was not kind to me this winter and I had to wear thermals indoors. But that was, I would 100% always turn there for stuff like thermals. And even like people in our friendship group from school have been like, I don't necessarily want to shop at Zara or like a typical high street shop, and they would prefer to spend their money at a place a bit less into fast fashion and like trend and get just some like decent clothes, and Uniqlo would be somewhere they turn. But like the Asian market is incredible for fashion. What a fashionable continent for one, and a range of styles on that continent. But also, like you said, like the Chinese market in particular is it's like you said, out from the inside, it's a really important market. And also I think that the world's opening up a bit. I think we all want to be a bit more unique again, you know? Like, as much as I love that Gucci GG belt, what would always stop me from buying that is because so many other people have it. And do I then get put in a bracket? And I think that China has so many great designers. So does Australia. Australia's actually got some incredible fashion designers.
Got some good bits, especially like brands that you find on the internet. Australia is really kicking it, and I love Zimmerman.
Yeah,
so, you know,
and they've got great swimwear brands and stuff like that. So I definitely think there hopefully will be a shift, whether the epicenter becomes the West, but I for sure think that more worldwide sort of reach for clothing, like brands like Farfetch are really good at that, because they basically house lots of boutiques. But yeah, I definitely think that it will be much more of a worldwide reach in the next kind of 10 to 15 years in fashion.
Definitely. I think that we're going to do predictions again, guys. But I definitely think we can make this into a whole kind of episode where we can flesh out our points. But you know how Europe is seen as like heritage brands, drives like the quality and craftsmanship kind of space in fashion, and New York is seen as like, or the USA is seen as like commercialized fashion, with all these like big department stores going under in the US. I could completely see how like more commercial brands are like it's gonna be big over in Asia. It's gonna like move over. Do you know what I mean? I don't know.
For sure.
I don't know how, but that's just my baseless prediction.
Yeah, but then I wonder if there's something to be said of the main thing that people from Asia do when they travel to Europe is shop. So I wonder what that says, but that's for another time. More
down to taxes and stuff. Yeah.
What
is your fashion story? Let's get into it.
So my fashion story is, you know, a quintessential English weather dilemma. Okay. So look, I'm not one of those people that likes to rant about how bad weather is in the UK, because you know what, I live here. So let's not make myself feel bad about it. It could be worse. It could be better. But we have just had like a real cold front, and we're now transitioning into like a mild temperature. So I went for a walk today, because what else do you do? And the dilemma of how many layers to wear struck me. And I hadn't had this dilemma for a while, because it's been really cold, so you just throw on as many clothes as you physically can fit under your coat at the moment. But now we're sort of entering a slightly warmer front. It's like, I forgot it's that thing of you just have to have so many layers in British weather. It is the same in summer. It is the same in winter, spring, autumn. It is just like, there's just this real inbuilt fear into me. I hate being cold. So like, you just have to pack loads of layers. And I find it like just so frustrating. You know, you can't skip out for a summer's day in just a dress. You need to have like a cardigan or a jacket just in case. You know, you're going to regret having bare legs a little bit later on. Like, English weather is really difficult to dress for. You know, like you can have an outfit in your mind, you know, when you like, you style yourself in your mind and you're like, yeah, I'm pulling pieces together and I think that's going to be it. And then you got to throw on another few layers, or or some. You have to have something that just ruins the look, okay? And it reminds you that Instagram is not real. Yeah,
this is the biggest like bone that I have to pick. with.
We know you didn't walk or do anything outside. You handed your friend your little coat to take that pic, you know?
Yeah. I know what you mean. It's just the unpredictability of weather over here that's like something we will never grasp and we will always moan about. But yeah, you always got to have a jacket that goes with the look.
And that's not always easy. Like I've got a fair amount of coats, okay? Like I'll admit it. I've got a fair amount of coats, but some have a very specific look. And so like yesterday, I found myself in this dilemma again, where I was like, I need a coat like this, just like to make this look complete. But then I was like, that's mental. I've already got like 10 coats hanging up out there. Like,
I know. I think next week's
it's guest, fashionable dilemmas.
Our guest that we have next week, she would just like kill us if she heard us like, oh, but our coat doesn't really go with the outfit.
Yeah.
Like,
well, think about your footprint, folks. That's a little sneak peek hint as to our guest.
Yeah. I completely get you. I know it's tricky. I have a lot of jackets. I have leather ones, suede ones, like nylon-y ones, which are like what are they called? Like them sports one.
Know what you mean.
Denim ones. And those are for high summer.
Yeah.
The highest of high summer in the UK.
Well, and also like I've got a leather jacket, but I had to make a decision on what size I bought. Did I want to be able to fit the thickest woolly jumper underneath it? Or did I want it to look nice more in milder temperatures? And like, I think, and again, our guests would hate this, I think you need a winter leather jacket and a summer one. I've said it.
Yeah, the loose ones.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what the winter ones are? They're the ones that are lined with shearling.
Yes.
Kind of aviator jacket.
I've got like a faux shearling one, but one day I aspire for it to be
a real one. Yeah.
A real deal. Yeah.
I know what you mean.
We interrupt this broadcast to remind you, go follow us on Instagram, Style Over Substance Pod. Shoot us an email, styleoversubstancepeak@gmail.com. Find us on YouTube, find us on Twitter. We've got all the links on our Instagram. You know what to do. But we digress. Our topic this week, we are discussing how the things we watch actually sink in so much more than we want them to, and can actually even affect our spending habits. And I saw an article online basically asking the question, we've been in athleisure for a good year now. I discovered it a little late. You all know that. But is something like the new reboot or the new film of Sex and the City going to make us refind our Manolos, refind, these fashion-forward outfits? And I know that might kind of sound crazy, but for context, guys, I'm going to throw like a figure at you. The most watched Netflix show that is Bridgerton has increased the sales of corsets and tea sets and even vintage furniture, each by minimum a third.
So like 33% increase.
So corsets are up 40%, puffy sleeve dresses up 30%, afternoon tea sets up 40%, wisteria 300%. Like it's not just clothes, like it's the full look, and we absorb what we watch, and we are what we watch, not what we eat. So much more than we would love to know, like, or care to admit. And yeah, I think we don't realize that consumerism is so real. So
yeah, it's really interesting because we like to see ourselves well, very much the idea of being an individual is so much touted
in
to
control.
us. Yeah, we're in control of our thoughts, our dress sense and everything. We're
Yeah.
individuals. But, you know, it doesn't take a genius to see that, you know, we dress in tribes and according to what piques our interest. And I think what's interesting, the idea of us questioning this reboot of Sex and the City, will it have this fashion impact on us again as it did the first go around? Because we live in a world now where we believe that, like, oh no, I don't watch TV anymore, I watch YouTube and I'm influenced by that, or I watch TikTok and I'm influenced by that, or I watch streaming services like Hulu's, like the Netflixes of the world and stuff. And I just definitely think that we more than ever are so susceptible to this fashion influence. And
but
I mean, my
how
question
you
is,
said
yeah,
people influence our peers. How many people did the Savage Love dance on TikTok? Now we are not the target age for TikTok. No qualms if that's what you want to do.
I love TikTok though.
Like, oh, I'm on it all the time.
Yeah.
But like I haven't made a Savage Love video.
No.
But you know, like if all your friends are doing it, and it's not even peer pressure, it's kind of like to be part of the gang. It's like, you know, that's the equivalent of playing in the playground now with your friends, and especially remotely right now. And you know, these things are so, we do whatever sort of the moment, you know.
Definitely. Like, just to give context to the cultural phenomenon that was Sex in the City, I believe it ran for only about 6 years, from the late 90s to the early 2000s. For those who don't know, there were 4 main characters and they each like embodied a different style. You had Sarah Jessica Parker, who was this girl about town professional, but like kind of whimsical girly character. Her character was Carrie. You had Samantha Jones, who was this high-powered professional, really sex positive, and she embodied like a style that was bold with power suits and things. You had Cynthia Nixon, who played a character called Miranda. She was another professional, but she played up to her, I don't want to play into being a girly girl in order to express my femininity.
Trying to like, she wasn't ever wanting to seem to be dressing for a man.
Yes,
she was very much dressing for herself only.
Yeah, but in a really conscious sense. And then you had Kirsten Davis, who played Charlotte, and she was the conservative American married who had an adoptive daughter, didn't she? And she wore things that were more like a conservative housewife who was like, but very pretty and youthful and like gorgeous. And so they all were like best friends, but they were completely different characters in themselves. And anyway, massively successful. Like, you had 2 films that came out of it after the series had ended. And then you had the Carrie Diaries, which kind of documented the main character's life, Carrie, before the main series. So that's, you know, it was a really big cultural deal. And to talk about how it influenced fashion, we'd have to talk about some of its like biggest, most popular styles and fashion trends that it influenced while the show was running.
I mean, I remember even she wore this very voluminous tulle skirt, very ballerina-esque, and for ages that was a huge thing. I remember wanting like to buy one at one point and be like, I don't know where to wear that
in the opening credits.
And it's that thing of like, it's this sort of, and it comes back in like time and time again. It's something that always reappears on the fashion scene. And it's this sort of, it's very flattering if you've got a small waist, and, you know, it looks really nice with a pair of heels and all of this stuff. And that was such a cultural thing of the tulle skirt and inspiring loads of girls, and you can find one in black if you're a bit more like edgy and punky, and you don't really want like one that looks like it's from ballet, but you could have super feminine ones and like, you know, glittered sparkle. And like that Carrie necklace, the name necklace. I remember buying my friend a name necklace, and 100% they became a rage because of it.
Yeah. But I think it's for someone who maybe didn't grow up in that era or wasn't exposed to it. Like, you have to understand that a tulle necklace, a tulle skirt was synonymous with ballet, and who wore them in ballet? Little girls. And it was like almost like a juvenile dress up thing to wear. And grown women didn't buy tulle skirts to wear in the street. And you have to remember, like, during the 80s and 90s, where women were like entering the workforce, like as it was power professionals, to be like prancing in the street, like in your like leotard and your tulle skirt, as Carrie does, was not a thing that you, as a professional woman, maybe seeming to give off that impression. And again, with nameplate necklaces, Carrie was this, you know, middle class, upper middle class, like city professional who wore a nameplate, which was really common in like other cultures, like Black communities. For a long time, a lot of gold jewelry was worn, but to see someone who was not of that culture to be wearing a nameplate
was huge.
Yeah, it was taking fashion out of a context and kind of exposing it to a new demographic.
Yeah, and I think there's so many points along the way that it was a really important show for, like you said, even just bringing culturally different whether it's accessories or styling. And this was also before the days where it was cultural appropriation or anything like that. It was always playing with fashion in this show, like that. It was never meant to offend. It was always, you know, pushing the boat. It was testing fashion. And it's a show that made like the artist that is Manolo Blahnik a household name. We all know Christian Louboutin, and don't get me wrong, there's a reason he's a craftsman and all of that stuff, but Manolo Blahnik is a epic craftsman, and is not really someone that would have been a household name. It was very niche in the wealthy fashion shoes circle, and it's synonymous with her wedding shoes, synonymous with where she would run to when she got her paycheck. And like, that's the power of these programs, that this guy's revenue has probably never dipped. You know, since, or to where it was, it has probably helped elevate that brand. And that is the power of, you know, a fashion forward show like Sex and the City.
I've got another point that I want to touch on and kind of ask you about, but just to kind of run through some of the other success stories when we talk about fashion trends, we obviously had the baguette, the Fendi baguette, which comes in thousands, I would argue thousands of iterations to the present day. Things like women wearing animal print again, and it not being seen as so much of a childish, you know, the cheetah girls kind of look. It was seen as something that could be sexy and mature. Things like slip dresses, which was no longer seen as undergarments, but as something that could be worn out and be styled and be sexy. What else was there? The Dior saddlebag, designed by John Galliano, which has come back, has been revived again by Dior. And it's been bigger than ever. And like the initial kind of popularity of these things, not like leopard print and nameplates and stuff, but when we're talking about Fendi baguette and we're talking about Dior saddlebags, their initial popularity is stemmed in Sex and the City. You know, it's arguably like Patricia Fields, who was the costume designer at the time. I don't know, hit gold and the show was really important in that sense. But a question I have for you is, the nature of TV has changed. Sex and the City used to come out each week on, like, in America, like what they call cable TV. Here it would have been on, like, I don't know, regular terrestrial or whatever, but it came out every week. So you saw, you know, the power of repetition over a long span of time is massive, because it like embeds in your psyche. I don't know. Now, where we have like series drops, you get like 12 episodes at a time. And we're seeing, okay, we could say Balenciaga is doing product placement in Emily in Paris. I haven't watched the series. We've talked about this before, but as a hypothetical, and it's product placement. You binge watching something over a weekend or a week, do you think that has the same level of impact and influence on you as something that's like stretched over 6 years, and you seeing like those glimpses, and you're seeing like Carrie like reworking that bag with different outfits? Do you think that happens?
I actually really don't. I think that, like you said, the nature of us binging is very sharp. Yes, okay, you might go, oh, really want that bag from Emily in Paris or what X TV show, but the next weekend you're going to be finding something else. And so I think that the length of time you lust after that is diminished significantly. And sure, you might be thinking about it for a while, and with shows a bit like an Emily in Paris, you see it all over Instagram for like the month it's released and all of that stuff, and people talking about it, which might keep that, oh yeah, I really liked that bag actually, oh I really liked that. But as time goes on, there'll be another show that does that, and like that's kind of the cycle. I will say there's not as many, and Emily in Paris was also styled by Patricia Field, and there aren't as many TV shows that really like try and be there in the fashion game, and like whether you liked the fashion is another thing.
That's true.
But not very many shows are super into fashion. I watched all the shows growing up of like One Tree Hill, 90210, Gossip Girl, all of that. Gossip Girl was fashion. The others weren't. Like Grey's Anatomy, hugely popular, long-running show, not to do with fashion whatsoever. So that's still quite rare to have a show really rely and have almost in the arc of their story be about fashion. Like, let's be honest, the storyline of Emily in Paris is not revolutionary. Her outfits create more discussion points than the stories. So there's fewer of those. But to be honest, you know, you can watch Schitt's Creek or a rerun of Friends and be like, oh my God, I loved that top like Monica was wearing. I'm going to see if that like there's something like that on ASOS or in Zara. I think we're like that. But if there isn't, I don't think the long-term lusting continues. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think from what you've said, we all watched, except me, watched Emily in Paris. And for that, like, let's say the buzz was really about like 2-3 weeks, where everyone was making YouTube videos about the styling and how bad it was and how the script was rubbish, but it was a lot. How
does this girl with like a middle marketing job own this many Chanel handbags?
Exactly. And these like Christian Louboutins and Balenciaga, but it's like, how can she afford it? These outfits don't make sense, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And I think had we been given more time to understand the character of Emily in Paris, we would have grown to accept her situation and her styling. Styling might be rubbish, but I can say there were lots of outfits in Sex and the City which were equally as bad. But we've like conveniently forgotten about those. And we only really talk about Sex and the City in the context of influential fashion. And I really think that Netflix and Patricia Fields thought they were going to be creating another Sex and the City. Like they thought they were onto something good, and everyone just trashed it for like 2 weeks. And it is about us getting used to the characters and understanding how the fashion plays a role as an accessory to the main story. And I think time plays a role in that, and we have to grow to accept okay, she's this American in Paris. She doesn't have this she doesn't have a job that really she can afford all this brand new stuff, but maybe she's buying them off Vestiaire. Maybe she's, we're going to start giving her excuses as to why she can A, afford this stuff, and B, why she even puts these things together. Yeah, I think that works in their favor.
I also think we're now living in a time where we have the patience of nothing.
Goldfish.
We are so overcritical as a society. We've been raised to it. I was literally, before we were recording this, me and my flatmate were remembering Heat magazine used to have like circles of shame where they would literally circle a picture of a woman's cellulite or try and take unflattering pictures of women.
Oh my God.
On the beach. So this is the society we've been raised in, is to nitpick. And yes, of course, we're getting better, but that's the society we were raised in. So like that should hopefully flush out a little. But we also, it's natural because we do it to ourselves. We might not necessarily do it to other people anymore, but I for sure do it to myself. Like we nitpick. And so we very quickly determine if we're like on it or not. And you know what, like there's always a lot of talk about old shows, the likes of a Friends or a Sex and the City, and if it's relevant now or if it's like inappropriate or there's different like elements to it that like wouldn't be remade now. Well, it wasn't made now. And you know what? Yeah, there were so many looks that Carrie wore, and was Carrie actually in hindsight really annoying? Like blah 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 blah. Yes.
Yeah.
But we just didn't look at shows in that way. And I think that happens sometimes when you do binge watch it. Imagine looking forward to a show every week and like, you're just really excited. Oh my God, it's a week until you were left on that cliffhanger of what's going to happen with Mr. Big. What's going to like happen? What outfit she going to wear for this important date? We don't have those moments. And I think actually suspense is really important in life to build this like big moment.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think that we have this short attention span because we just have so much content pushed in our direction, to be honest. And we have this...
like, I know everyone jokes that they've completed Netflix. Like
I have not, and like, I've watched a lot.
I watch a lot of telly like in these evenings because what else is there to do? I have not made a dent on Netflix in the larger sense of how many hours worth of content there is on there, let alone combining all the other streaming services.
Yeah. And when you talk about suspense in relation to product placement, die-hard Sex and the City fans watching it from the beginning, and then we got the film. Was it the film? Yes, when Mr. Big proposed to her, wasn't it the film? Yeah, and not that French dude in the series. And he proposed. He proposed with Manolo Blahniks, and it was like, it was. We knew that obviously she'd been talking about sex and relationships throughout this whole program, but it was the build that, oh my God, Carrie's actually going to get married. What is she going to wear? We've been wondering this for years.
Yeah.
So whatever she puts on her is going to be like a round of applause. It's going to be this like climatic moment. Doesn't matter.
Are you still watching? Click.
Yeah, exactly. And so it builds suspense and excitement and anticipation for the brand that she's going to wear, for the model of shoe that she's going to wear, for the color that she's going to wear. And I think that's like the beauty of product placement. If it's not in this like fleeting moment, oh, that's nice. Oh, okay, whatever. Next scene. It's like, it's part of the story, but there's this build up towards it. There's this build up to the reveal. And in the same way, like we talk about what are you wearing for your wedding? Like if someone's engaged, there's this like 8, 10, 12 month run up to like the moment you see the bride. What's her hair look like? What's her makeup like? What's her shoes like? What's her dress like? What's the venue looking like? And so we remember those moments more because there is such a build to it.
Definitely. And and sort of loop back on whether I think it will change the way people dress. I think in parts yes, and I think in parts no. I think that I'm sort of an all or nothing person. Like, yeah, I could turn up somewhere wearing full sequin, full leopard print, high heels, and like all the makeup that I could throw on my face. Or it could be in jeans and a top and stuff like that. But I do think it will encourage like some more of those high fashion moments, throwing on those heels again, like remembering that feels nice. It might not be the most comfortable, and we're all used to comfort right now. But I do think it will inspire us to like, yeah, like that is, especially if you watched it in the old times and you're of that certain age, well, like you can't help but associate that with like getting dressed up. And you know, like,
yeah,
like it's like, for me it's like, oh, that's just like, imagine walking through New York and always wearing heels. Like it's that thing of like, oh, like in another life, or
yeah,
that's
it's fantasy.
Like, it's a fantasy, and I think that it will rebirth the fantasy for quite a few people.
Yeah, I think you're right in that sense. At a time where we haven't been able to wear what we wanted, go places that we've wanted to, I have watched some YouTubers who are like luxury fashion YouTubers, and they've maybe been more conscious of what they're buying. But I think it's been a time where we've had a moment to maybe save for that big purchase, that bag that we wanted, and we're itching to like be donning it. Do you know what I mean? At some point. So I think that we are, as a global community or whatever, we're itching for those like our personal fashion moments. And so that's, if the reboot of this aligns with us being out in the world and traveling and stuff, there's going to be this like, people are itching to shop and to spend and stuff. But as you like, I think you touched on the point before, that saying that Sex and the City fashion was fun first and foremost, I think that is like the core to its fashion success, that it got a chance, it gave women a chance to see what they could possibly do with their fashion. Like we all experience that, you know, 2-hour round trip commute in the morning and in the evening from like the office to home and vice versa. And so we're thinking about what's the most comfortable shoe, what's the most practical bag, what's the most like easy to dry clean or easy to wash suit or pieces or dress or item or whatever. And Sex and the City was like, yeah, all these ladies live and work in New York City. Yeah, they probably earn more than the average woman, whatever. But it doesn't matter if they're going to the office, to dinner, to work all night long, got tough jobs, long hours. They are putting on like their best and piecing things.
They're not saving it.
They're not saving it for best. They're like wearing it every day, and they're like,
which I love. And I actually think that's a really great thing, and I'm definitely victim of that. Like, especially at the moment, I have an office where I have to be relatively smart, and I kind of have like a uniform of those clothes. I have a few that like are transitional that I would wear in normal life too, but I'm also kind of like, oh, I want to have like my office like attire and then my like other life attire. But I'm like, and also I don't even dress that jazzy, guys, but I'm definitely like the most interesting dresser at my work. which isn't saying much. Like, I'm not boring, but like they're just pretty much like suited and booted, and that's kind of it, just like black and white. And I'm sort of there being like, oh, so, wow, I don't think highly of myself. That's not what that was. But like that sometimes used to restrain me, is to like pushing the boat out even more. But I tell you now, I am gonna push that boat out, and I don't care if like, yeah, you guys want to wear your just pretty like bog standard grey suits, that's great, and you look cool, and I don't judge that. But I'm also just going to be a bit freer and embrace the playfulness, I think, with fashion. That's something I really want to like aspire for in my fantasies.
Yeah, I think there's definitely space for a Sex and the City reboot. Now, do I want it to happen on a personal level because I think that they can do just as good of a job? No, not really. I think it was a moment back in the early 2000s. But do I think we're ready for a fashion moment? Yeah, definitely. At a time when also like we've been watching fashion shows. Maybe we don't comment on them on every single show, but some brands have decided not to put on a show, or they've decided to do it at their own pace. We don't have that excitement of Fashion Week anymore. And maybe this will just fill a void that we're missing.
I bet
a fashion North Star.
There'll be such a competition, or like all these designers. I bet Patricia's had a few texts since the announcement of this reboot, like buttering her up, because it's really influential what we watch on screen, like highly so. And I was going to run through a few things that you wouldn't expect to have influenced from screen. I'm going to start with Doctor Who has increased bow ties being cool and being worn again, and it increased sales by 94%
of bow ties.
And like, I'm not someone who watches Doctor Who, and I don't think I know anyone who does, but young boys do watch it if they're into sci-fi, and that might like inspire them. But I'm a big fan of a bow tie, I will say that.
Yeah, I love one too.
So I'm happy with that. But like, you aren't watching Doctor Who for fashion inspiration.
No, you're not.
But you subconsciously have been seeing bow ties, and then think,
association. Yeah, it's the association of it. If I wear a bow tie, I might be just as smart. You know?
Yeah. One of the craziest things is tinnies went up. So Fleabag, the hot priest, we all know, if we've watched Fleabag, we know the hot priest, okay? He drank out of an M&S tinny, a gin and tonic tinny to be specific, and that spiked sales across the entire country. They went up 30% the week after.
That is bizarre.
What? Just because a hot priest is drinking that drink, you think you need that?
I don't remember him being that hot anyway, like, first off.
But like,
and secondly, that's not something that the
just
UK
because you drink it doesn't mean he's going to go out with you. Like,
that's something that we like drink anyway, especially in the summer. You always like pass by M&S, you go to the park, or you're on your way home and you're like, oh, I fancy a drink.
So along the same vein, if you've heard of the Netflix series To All the Boys I've Loved, Peter Kavinsky, who's like the main character, he's like the little young people will love him. He drank a Yakult, and the stock rose by 3%.
That's insane.
Because of it. And it will again be the case of, I fancy him, oh my god, he drinks Yakult, I'm gonna drink Yakult. But like, I'm not being funny, guys. Yakult has been around for a while. It's a probiotic. Yeah, like, don't drink a probiotic just because a boy did. And then moving on to pets, Finding Nemo nearly made clownfish an endangered species because people bought into it so much. And again, like, running through it, Dalmatians, there was a huge influx, and we are on the cusp of a remake of Cruella with...
You know what? I can see that big time, because Cruella de Vil is a fashion icon.
She is.
And you can fight me about that.
She 100% is. But like, that will 100%, I think, you'll see that increase with the remake of Cruella or the new Cruella film. But we see... I'm definitely like susceptible, especially when it comes to dogs. You see like these cute dogs, like you constantly see like an influencer who's got a certain type of dog, you're like, I want a dachshund, and then you're like, do I? Or is it just because I'm getting a lot of that content?
Yeah, or it's like aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah. And like, in the boring way, have I researched if they're compatible with my lifestyle?
Yeah,
because, you know, I don't own £1 million house in the country. But yeah, like, these are the kind of things that can happen from watching shows and telly. So the impact of that is really important. And I think at a time where we might really need it and we might really want to re-find our wardrobe, I kind of have days where I like suddenly I'm like, oh, should I dress like normal? And like I don't most of the time, and because my flat's been quite cold, so I haven't really been able to wear something that's not a thick jumper. But I wore jeans for the first time in about 6 months, maybe.
Really?
Like this week. I mean, first of all, I haven't wanted to know I just didn't want to know how tight they would be. Like, I was just like, do I need to know that? And also, I haven't sat in jeans for so long, and jeans aren't actually the most comfortable thing to wear.
Yeah, I don't buy. I quit buying skinny jeans years ago. I only buy mum fit straight legs because they're not comfortable unless they're loose.
But even straight leg and stuff like that, like when you sit down in them and you haven't had denim in your crotch for a little while, like it takes getting used to.
Yeah, it's an experience.
Yeah. But I think we'll all be searching. Any of us who love our clothes, any of us who, you know, like you take some time or you take some thought with your clothes, or you know, you love your things, I think we'll all be like striving for that fantasy of, yeah, I am going to go for some drinks with my friend. Oh, yeah, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to like push the boat out a little bit more. Or like, I don't know, even if you just pack, you've got some commuter shoes and maybe you have some work appropriate shoes, but you throw in some like a little sneaky number to add to this ensemble for when you meet for cocktails and all that stuff. Like, do it. And I think that this film, it will influence us and impact us more than we know. Like, definitely.
Yeah, same. I'm definitely going to be watching.
For sure. Mainly to see how terrible it is without Samantha. And for the fashion moments, for sure. The second film like stepped up the fashion another level. I really forgot the better. But like, it's so high fashion. They're literally taking looks off a runway. They are going for it. And I think that'll be really exciting. Like you said, we haven't seen a fashion week for a really long time, or what we would call a normal fashion week. And I think it will be a really fun way to enjoy even like seeing J-Lo at the inauguration in just a full Chanel look. That's like a little snippet of how it will feel, you know, when something. You just want to see these looks elsewhere. And because there haven't been these events, there hasn't been anything for us to enjoy fashion looks not on a supermodel. Yeah. That's super important to see looks not on like a
looks in context of life.
I think it will be huge for the brands that get worn, like huge. I'm actually really excited for them after like a really tough time. I think that could be a really important thing for them. But I think as well for us, like regular folks, we want to wear some cool clothes, man.
100%. I think we should like maybe pose a question to the listeners.
Oof, okay.
What is the item that you grew up coveting after seeing a celebrity or a TV personality or a show or something you saw on TV that you then wanted in your life? That's going to be our question of the week, I think. I can answer it because I already know. Do you have one?
I don't know if I do, but you answer yours and I'll have a think.
Mine were baggy boyfriend jeans paired with Converses after seeing Rihanna Ponder Replay. I was like, I need to be doing something on the replay with them. I don't know. I just needed that look. And I then bought, I can't remember how long it was after seeing that music video, but I did start wearing like those baggier low-rise boyfriend jeans. I think it was a thing for a while, but yeah, I still love them.
Okay, I guess along that sort of a line, I was a huge Busted fan.
Yes.
Like huge. But I definitely was like used to dress very grungy for a while. And I definitely wore sort of like, I had those belts. Do you remember them that are basically like a seatbelt? you know,
like, oh yes,
I used to wear stuff like that, and I would have like wide fitting, like I dressed very tomboy, and that probably was subconsciously a bit like the McFly busted style a bit. I also have two brothers and always craved sort of like fitting in with them.
Okay, well that's the end of the episode, guys. We're going to pose this question to you.